guys, how we doing, and welcome back to the channel. Home this morning. I just got back from running to the parts store to grab some stuff for the back end, the back axle of my truck. I do have a track meet to go to later on, so I kind of want to try and get this done before I have to be there. You know, like I said yesterday when I was at Hot Shots, and first off, I gotta tell you, I'm sorry for not getting a whole lot of footage. As I was editing that video, I just wasn't real happy with the way it turned out. I hope you guys did enjoy what I was able to pick up, but it's kind of like the PRI show. When I was there, I get so involved and just what I'm looking at, and I forget to turn the camera on to include you guys. That happens to me a lot when I go on field trips and stuff like that. I know I sound like I'm 2 years old going on a class field trip, but anyway, that happens to me a lot when I do stuff like that. I get so involved in what I'm looking at that I forget that I'm supposed to be recording and showing you also what I'm seeing. So I just wanted to apologize for lack of footage. There was some things that they didn't want me to show, and I appreciate that, but there's a lot of things that I didn't show, or not a lot, there's a few things that I wish I would have shown to take you along on a journey that I didn't remember to hit the record button on. But that kind of shows you what I use as products and kind of who they are. The Facebook Live show, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed doing that. Yesterday's topic, or Friday's topic, depending on when you're watching this, was Stiction Eliminator. I've used that a few times in my truck, and it's working well. By using their products, I have gained a lot. I have pretty much all their fluids in my truck except for rear end and transmission and antifreeze. Those are the kind of the products I have not tried yet. They do have a gear oil, and they do have antifreeze, so I will be getting into that and putting those fluids in my truck. And they do not have a Synchro mesh yet, which we talked about on the Facebook Live show. But anyway, a huge shout out to Hot Shots. Thank you guys very much for having me there, and also for having me on the show. It was a great time, and I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to coming over and seeing your guys' area again. So anyway, diving into the truck. I had said that I had this brake was extremely hot, and now you can't see it because it's been sitting out here. We had some rain yesterday. What I think actually the issue is, the emergency brake wasn't hanging up to the point to where it's going to cause it to heat up. I think I have two issues going on. One being, if you look over on this side here, somebody has put some aftermarket brake lines on this truck. They don't have the traditional banjo block here going over and going into the factory steel brake line. They have these aftermarket braided lines. And you can see how kinked off that is. This is the same thing that was on the driver's side. That's the driver's side was worse than this. Now, before I put my new brake pads on, this caliper was setting over about probably a good ½ inch, which allowed plenty of clearance and slack in this line to be able to work. But since I put new brake pads on, it has moved this caliper over, and it has put quite a bit of stress and quite a bit of kink in that line. So with that being said, the combination of the axle seal, it has soaked these pads, and this side wasn't working, and also the combination of that line being pinched off, allowing some fluid to bypass in but maybe not a fluid to come out, has made that side work, the driver's side work quite a bit harder. So my solution to that is this back here on my bench, and I'll show you what they purchased. I really don't even know what they purchased, but anyway, Summit had a kit. Let me open up my phone here. If you can see that, Summit has that kit for aftermarket ends, and this is a -3 AN or -3 JIC fitting on these ends, and both ends are the same. So you can see that this comes with all that stuff. Those are on the truck, the lines are on the truck, but the banjo style fittings are not on the truck. What they actually had on the truck was this straight, and this is a 3 JIC or a number 3 JIC or a -3 AN, and what these actually are is a 3/8 by 24 thread. Same way with that goes into the brake caliper itself. Now, when I ordered these banjo fittings, just like I showed you on the phone, I ordered these off of Amazon, and they came and it was a 10mm, which was wrong. I ordered the wrong ones. I looked at that and ordered a number 3 O-ring because I went to a local hydraulic store and tried to find a 90 the other day, but they didn't have them. They would have to order them. And he said, just a heads up, those are like a $20 fitting. So I said, don't worry about it. I'll try and find something else. Worst comes to worst, I was going to put the factory brake lines back on there. At O'Reilly this morning, they're the only ones who actually had some banjo bolts in stock, not by per application, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, remember back in the day when you used to be able to go to the auto parts store and get parts because the guy behind the counter knew what you needed just by showing him or whatever. Now everything is computer oriented to where you have to, it's per application on everything, which is fine, but the computer doesn't know everything. I guess I shouldn't say the computer doesn't know everything. The person that has preloaded all that information for said vehicle, you know, they may have forgot something, or they don't have something like that 3/8 by 24 in there. It takes somebody with a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of searching to actually find that. So it's just, you know, you don't go to the parts store anymore to buy little parts like I did with those banjo bolts, and because everything's per application. So anyway, I know I'm ranting, getting off topic, but it's just, I don't know, one of those things, do you remember when? So anyway, what I purchased was these banjo fittings. It's a -3 AN or JIC. Will go into my line. This will go up to the frame, and all is good. It doesn't have it kinked over, with that being on there and allowing that fluid not to be able to disperse back into the lines or back up into the reservoir. So I believe that's what the issue was. As far as my brake hanging up on the driver's side, was the fact of the passenger side was oil soaked, the pads were not working anymore, and also that line being kinked off to the point to where it's not allowing all the fluid to bypass back out of the caliper itself. So right now we're going to, and I also have seals for that side too, so really don't need anything else. I did get new brake shoes too, or new brake pads too. Gonna put those on, get the old ones off, and first and foremost is get that hub off on the passenger side. And while I have it off, I need to check the bearings and make sure they're fine, because I did not buy bearings. I just was gonna kind of wait and see kind of what that side looked like once I took it apart. If I need to go get new bearings, I will. So right now, let's take that hub apart and see what's on the inside. So to get this assembly off, basically you need to start with doing your brake job too. My caliper off, my caliper bracket, and then to be able to slide this drum off, or this disc off. What it is a disc, and then this is a drum for the emergency brakes on the inside. I already sprayed all this down with some brake cleaner. When you take your new pads off, just like I said on the other side, or when you take your caliper off, those pistons are going to be pushed in, and you won't be able to pull this caliper off and get it past those tabs that are on the pads themselves. So you're going to have to take and ever so slightly push in on each one of those pistons, the top one and the bottom one, to be able to take your caliper off. Yeah, that was a pretty bad leak in there. So now we're just, next thing you'll need to do is take this outer floating hub off assembly. All right, it's been just a little bit. Once you do get your axle pulled out, you have this little locking tab in here. And most generally, these nuts are a one-time use. I forgot to pick one up, so I'm going to go ahead and reuse it. What you do is you have this little keeper here, and you pound that in, and what it does is it locks into that nylon and doesn't allow it to back off. So I had to actually pick up a socket. I didn't have a socket that big. Those are 2 9/16, so I had to call around just a little bit and grab the corresponding socket to get that off of there. So now we're gonna go out there and take the rest of that apart. I also ran to the track meet, so it's been just a little while. Right now I just need to continue on and get this tore apart. Like I said, you can just take a pair of needle nose and pull these little locking tabs out, just like that. There's a couple different colors. There's yellow in my truck. And then you just back your spindle nut off. That was nowhere near tight, so usually those are about 120 foot-pounds. Take that off. Set your bearings someplace nice and clean. These are not greasable because they are oiled by the differential oil. That seal don't look like it's in that bad a shape. We'll just take it out, put the new one in. Alright, it's easier to take these seals out if you take it in and put it in a vise, but I'm not going to do any bearings or races after doing a visual inspection on the bearings. They are in really good condition, so I'm just going to put these back in and run them. Just right here on the ground, you can just get you a flat screwdriver, chisel, whatever you need, and just start working around it. And usually it'll come out just like that. Alright, with the new seal out, I grabbed a block of wood and set my hub up on a block of wood. This is the part number for the new seal. I'm sorry, with the old seal out. Set it in place. Get it started just a little bit, and I'd like to take a block of wood. And then that just sets her in place. And you can just reverse the assembly. Take just a little bit of your gear oil and put it on that shaft, because that seal is going to be sliding across here. Or just take some gear oil and put on your finger too, out of the bottle, and put it on the back of that shaft. Put your bearing back in. Put your axle nut back on. Alright, the reason they say these axle nuts, and I can tell this one's been apart a couple of different times. You can see there's that locking pin has been driven in there. It's been driven in there. And it's been driven in there. So that tells me this has been apart before. The reason they say these are a one-time use nut is because that nylon will be new, and then as you thread this on there, it cuts that nylon, or cuts threads in that nylon, and then you just drive your locking tab in there. And as you tighten that up, I'm using my old bearings, so it's not as crucial, but it's still a good idea as you tighten that up to keep spinning that. Now I go get my torque wrench and set it at 120 foot-pounds and get that nut torqued into place. At that point in time, you are good to go. They say you should back these off about 1/8 of a turn. So that's pretty good there. And just take your locking tab and put it back in just like that. And that hub is good to go. I just got to put my axle in, retorque those to 90 foot-pounds with some blue Loctite. Okay, so I think I have everything put back together. It's kind of been a jumbled day. I hope I've covered everything, but I guess I'll find that out when I start editing this video. As you remember, I showed you earlier, you can see how this side comes over and is kinked off. I do have new brake pads in place. I went ahead and cleaned off and reused the emergency brake pads, just for the simple fact, all they do is hold the truck. And actually, I forgot to go pick them up. So for right now, I just went ahead and reused them. There's quite a bit of pad left on them, but they were oil soaked too, so we will see how they do. Going back to the line, you can see how that's pinched off. Over here on the passenger side, or that was the passenger side, over here on the driver's side, I have this one done and completed. You can see how I have that banjo style fitting in there with the -3 JIC, and it's just nice and flowing up and over back into the brake line. So I do need to bleed my brakes yet. The way I start doing them is I just tuck a rag underneath here, and then I just break that bleeder screw and let gravity take over, because it did empty out clear down here to this fitting. So by me opening that and leaving it go, it'll gravity through from the master cylinder up there, back through the lines, and actually fill this caliper up and start coming out. Now I do still have to bleed the system and get all the air out of the lines, but that does help me and aid in the fact of filling this caliper up. So I do have a vacuum bleeder in there, and then I also have the foot of my son in the house. So I think I'm pretty much gonna end out this video here. I'm gonna get the passenger side taken care of as far as the banjo fitting, and then also get my summer wheels back on. I'm gonna get those in place and see how much I still like them. Boy, I tell you what, 2 weeks after I purchased these, TIS come out with those in red, and I just wish I would have waited 2 weeks. But you know, such is life. You don't know those things are gonna happen. So anyway, if you don't mind, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we'll talk to you guys later on. Bye-bye.